Well, yeah, that was a little bit of what I think happened last night, and we're going to be doing a lot more discussion tonight, tomorrow, the rest of the week probably. What just happened? Well, let's talk to one of our favorite experts to analyze what just happened. She is Mercedes Schlapp, a veteran of the Trump White House and the Bush White House, now getting things done over there at the CPAC family. Mercedes, good evening. I know it's been a long 24, 36 hours. Thanks for joining us.
Goodness, you're not kidding, Larry. It's been a fascinating night, and I think slightly disappointing on the Republican side. In fact, I think I just burnt my red wave shirt because it obviously didn't turn out to be the way that so many people, so many of the pollsters, so many of the pundits were anticipating. But, you know, look, at the end of the day, I think what is the positive note coming out of this is that the House will most likely win the majority. I mean, the Republicans will most likely win the majority in the House. Yeah. The Senate is still in play. I'm looking at the states, Nevada and Arizona. They look promising in terms of definitely Nevada on the Senate side. Arizona's a little harder, but I still think doable. So, you know, I just think that we can't lose all hope because I do think that there was some good news coming out of last night.
I'm with you. Listen, any day that you wake up and it looks like Nancy Pelosi will no longer be the Speaker of the House and probably end her political career, I refuse to say that that's a bad day. All right.
That's true.
So let's start with that positive note. Let's talk about, though, exactly why it wasn't as big a night that we had hoped for Republicans. Now, I made the case that, sure, Republicans did come out and vote. They just don't live in New York or Pennsylvania or Michigan anymore. They now live down in Florida or in Texas because who would have expected Ron DeSantis would have that kind of overwhelming victory? Is there something to be said about that, because of COVID, we've had this migration?
Yeah, you know, I really wasn't surprised with the blowout that came out of Florida. You know, DeSantis is a very popular governor. Charlie Crist obviously just is not very likable. And DeSantis has built a very strong operation where he's been able, with his team, to make sure that there was voter registration and it was benefiting the Republicans. As we've seen, there's been an exodus from these blue states into Florida, and people really have aligned with DeSantis. I mean, when you're talking about the fact that he won 51% of the Puerto Rican vote, which normally Puerto Ricans, you know, skew more Democrat, he won over 50% of the non-Cuban vote as well, meaning from a Hispanic standpoint. Those are really big numbers. He was able to flip counties that are traditionally Democrat, like Miami-Dade County, Hillsborough County. So all of these indications, I thought, showed a very favorable night in Florida, where Republicans also gained 4 congressional seats. Yeah. Now, that was the story of the night. It really shows that Republicans should look at the Florida playbook and start adopting it nationwide, because I felt that in other parts of the country, especially in states like Pennsylvania, the get out the vote effort failed miserably for Republicans, as well as the fact that, you know, Republicans were outspent. These Republican candidates in so many places were outspent. And for whatever reason, I think that voters, especially in these congressional races, just felt more comfortable keeping the incumbent candidate, despite the fact that they disapprove of Joe Biden's job performance.
Yeah. You know, I think you're right about the get out the vote effort, and that's frustrating because that is a money play when all is said and done. If you've got the money, you can get out the vote. And when you're talking about Pennsylvania, I mean, I thought one of the rationales behind nominating Mehmet Oz, who is a political novice, is that he's got funds, he's got money, he can help get that vote out. What happened in Pennsylvania?
Well, you said it, political novice. So what you're finding is that it's so much easier to think that the celebrity type of individual, like a Herschel Walker, a Dr. Oz, could easily just come into these states, win these races. That was obviously not the case. You have a lot of these people that have political experience, who have run statewide before, like a Warnock, like a Fetterman. So they have built out a lot of their grassroots operations. The Republicans seem to have fallen behind in that space from an organizational standpoint, and I think it hurt them. Now, take a look at Adam Laxalt out in Nevada, where right now he is leading in that state. We might not know for a couple of days if he will win in that state or not. But Adam Laxalt had an advantage. He wasn't a political novice. He had run for state office before. He knew what it takes to build an infrastructure and be able to really establish very good get out the vote efforts. That makes all the difference in these states. And I just think that that's where the Republicans have very much struggled this time around, despite the fact that Republicans should have been winning in so many of these congressional races and these state races. Why? Because Biden he's so weak. I mean, and the Democrats, they haven't been able to do anything to really provide relief to Americans in terms of inflation and the impact it's having on American families.
Can we drill down a little bit on what you mentioned in Florida with regard to the Hispanic vote and how strong it was for Ron DeSantis? By the way, this is coming off of atrociously deceitful coverage of the airlift of 50 Venezuelan illegal immigrants to Martha's Vineyard. I mean, we were told by your pal Geraldo Rivera that the Latino vote in Florida won't let Ron DeSantis forget. Well, they came out in droves. This is an incredibly powerful new base for Republicans. Are they going to be able to mobilize this new Latino conservative movement in states other than Texas and Florida?
Right. Look, I think Nevada, again, is a perfect example of the opportunity to leverage the Hispanic vote. And I think you're going to see the Hispanic vote will skew over to the Republican side. I think Arizona, you're talking about that it has 17% of Hispanics are part of that electorate. And so I think that the Republicans have a huge opportunity to court these Hispanic voters in these different states. Obviously, they're talking about the economy, talking about which is the party that's going to give you the best opportunity for your family, and the ideas of school choice, and fight back against critical race theory and gender ideology. Don't call Latinos Latinx. It pisses them off. And I think that's where the Democrats have lost their way. And it's why
we want them to keep doing that. Mercy, we want them to keep doing the Latinx thing. I like the Latinx thing.
Yeah, and we want the Hispanics, to really know that if they come to the Republican Party, they have a home with the Republican Party. We want it to be a long-term relationship. And that's going to be the challenge as we start entering into the presidential election 2024.
Who would have known that calling them Latinx and comparing them to breakfast tacos and saying si se puede didn't actually bring out that vote? Also, one other aspect of the Latino vote that I know the Hispanic vote is very important to you, Mercedes. I think gone now are the days, hopefully, that a strong Republican message about securing our border and enforcing our laws is now seen as in some way anti-Hispanic or xenophobic, because, I mean, you can't get, in this election cycle, Greg Abbott and Ron DeSantis led the charge on that argument, and Kari Lake in Arizona, and it didn't hurt them one bit.
No, it didn't. I do want to add that I think one of the most interesting parts of the Hispanic voter, and also we saw several of these top Hispanic candidates run for office. Now, many of them were not successful, like Amira Flores. Now, she was running in a very, like a Democrat district. But you saw Casey Garcia and Monica de la Cruz. Monica de la Cruz did pull off a win in Texas. Yesli Vega, great candidate. She did not win in Virginia. But just the mere fact that you had these very powerful Hispanic women running for office, they are Republican, they are pro-family, pro-life, pro-America. That sends a very strong message, I think, to know that they're willing to be voices for the Republican Party, which I think is very encouraging. And I do think the issue of immigration did play out in some of these more border states like Arizona, like Texas, like Florida. And, but I have to say, I do feel that, the top issue was the economy. But I also feel that the Democrats' messaging on abortion did swing some of those voters, especially in, the suburban women, a lot more than we anticipated. Because of the fear-mongering coming out of the Democrats. Yep,
I think you're right on that, especially in the Yesli Vega race in Northern Virginia. We got to leave it there. Mercedes Schlapp, get some sleep, for crying out loud.
I plan to. I'm going to go find my pillow and take a nap.
Wait, when you say my pillow, well, I don't want to do that. We'll be back with more on O'Connor Tonight.